Hey, what's going on, everyone? This is Mitch. Good Monday evening to you all. Hope you guys have had a great start to your work week, a great Monday out there. Got a few things to talk about tonight. One is obviously the system moving through right now. Will continue to do so over parts of Missouri, Ohio Valley, and then a low pressure will try to get cranked up here. And will even deliver potentially some ice tomorrow morning for areas of the North Carolina mountains into Virginia, West Virginia. I'm not talking about an ice storm or anything like that, but we're certainly going to talk about that. And then this will eventually be an interior northeast, I wouldn't say major winter storm, but certainly a storm that could deliver several inches of snow to some areas. And then even areas of southern New England could get a front end thump of maybe a little bit of snow. Not a lot, but behind this system, a big topic is going to be some pretty intense lake effect snow bands are going to pop off Lake Erie and Lake Ontario, and that could deliver one of our, it's hard to say, but maybe one of the biggest lake effect snow events in a few years at least. So we're going to talk about that. Lake Erie is at record warmth right now. I believe certain areas of the lake is around 55 degrees, so it's still pretty warm. So cold air is going to run through it and then pop off some streamers that could deliver maybe a couple feet of snow in certain areas. And then also, we're going to break down the possibility of some flurries from just a system after this system moves through. And maybe some flurries, some snow showers can make it as far south as North Carolina. The northwest flow will get kicking in the Tennessee, North Carolina, and Virginia mountains. So a lot of small topics to latch on to, and we're going to try to figure this out. Very cold weekend coming up here also. If you guys have not subscribed, certainly consider doing that. Like the video if you like it. Hit me up on Twitter, guys. It's a great way to just follow along. Winter is almost pretty much, you can say, here. For a lot of folks it is. And, it's going to be really fun talking winter weather with you guys. That's when I really thrive. That's when the type of weather I like to really talk about the most, as I've mentioned many times. If you guys got anything I can pray about, pray over, please put it in the comments below. It gives me an opportunity to pray over it, and it gives others an opportunity to do so too. So let's talk about what's going on right now. We still got ongoing winter storm warnings. I would love to hear reports out of Oklahoma. Based off some of the, I wouldn't call it moaning and groaning, but it seemed like some people were a little upset in and around the Oklahoma area. I don't know if this is materializing the way that maybe me and the professionals kind of thought it was. But I'll be interested to hear what's going on in and around the Oklahoma area, Arkansas, even Kansas, Missouri, overnight tonight. But winter storm warning still up. Winter weather advisories up for several counties in northern Arkansas. But you got this little dry slot setting up. That's why you don't have any winter weather advisories up for the southern half of Missouri. But notice, look at these purples right here. These are winter weather advisories for basically the entire North Carolina mountains outside of these first two southwest counties in the North Carolina mountains. But this extends all the way to Virginia, West Virginia, into Pennsylvania, into basically central areas of New York State, including a few counties in New Hampshire, Vermont, and also a couple counties in Connecticut. Then you got winter storm watches up for Maine. But we talk about what is going on right now, and I just noticed that I don't have my radar pulled up for Oklahoma, so let's make sure we get, we don't need Oklahoma. That's why. There's a reason for that. Oklahoma's going on right now, so that's why we're looking at this. Snow reports being reported in and around the Oklahoma City area, but you notice there's some rain reports reported with it. Really, this is a rate-driven snow event, meaning the heavier the precipitation, the more chances you're going to see a column crashing, which means evaporative cooling happens, you have snow. That's why, you got weird reports everywhere. You got rain up here being reported, but snow to the south. You're wondering, well, Mitch, what areas further to the north have a higher chance of snow? Well, it's just lighter precipitation in this area. And far northeast areas of Oklahoma, heavier precipitation this area. So that's why in Fayetteville, near Springdale, Arkansas, you're getting reports of snow. But what's pretty crazy to me is you're getting some rain and sleet reports, and even down as far south as Arkansas. So, I mean, that's that. I think you guys in Little Rock saw a little bit of rain snow action a few days ago. So it's pretty rare to see snowfall in Arkansas. Probably not quite as rare as maybe Alabama, Georgia, or South Carolina or something like that, but we'll certainly see it. The precipitation is starting to move into Missouri, and then we're probably going to have an enhancement of heavier precipitation up here and down here, and there's going to be some kind of dry slot into here. So we're certainly watching this, guys, and how it's going to unfold, and we'll check that out. Here it goes. Precipitation begins to move through. If this was to happen, this is around the middle of the night, 11 p.m. to 1 a.m. sometime. If this was to happen, to me, you see no winter weather advisories right here in the middle part of Missouri and southern part. Well, I mean, if you really look at this would show, Columbia, Missouri, a point south, a pretty nice band of snow that moves through. And this continues, and by the time we get into the middle of the night, a band of snow begins to move into Illinois, far southeast corner of Missouri and southern sections of Illinois. It's a little bit too warm to see snow from this, but precipitation will lighten up. But I think St. Louis could see a few inches of snow. That's very possible. Kansas City will see a few inches of snow overnight. And then some snow will be even moving into the Chicago area as we get daybreak tomorrow. And I think I would say 70% of the state of Illinois could see snow flying around as we're waking up tomorrow morning. And I think there'll be a brief period of snow, and even in Indiana, maybe even Indianapolis tomorrow morning, there'll be a little snow flying around. But I think that really what happens is the southern part of the system becomes dominant. Therefore, the precipitation on the northern side begins to lessen up somewhat. And this shows it well right here as we're getting into tomorrow. Some lake effect enhanced precipitation begins to pop off here. That's why you got definitely some weird directional flows here. Very odd. It shows some snow over Michigan. And then, maybe down here in Ohio, maybe a brief mix of rain, snow in northern sections of Ohio. But just some weird flows. Really what's happening here is another system is getting kick-started right here at the same time with this system pulling away. A lot of systems everywhere. They really are. You just got some crazy stuff. You got some reverse lake effect snow going on up here that's going to give certain areas of northeast Minnesota some heavy snow. A lot of things going on right here. So this system will continue to move through. We'll talk about the lake effect snow here in a second. But in general, I think that you'll have some snow flying around for Illinois, Indiana, but outside of that, and obviously for these Wisconsin, Michigan, maybe a little bit of Iowa, and then you're going to have snow. It's going to be a snowy next several days for areas like Minneapolis, things like that. But Ohio, I think some areas could see snow, but certainly will be more so rain. But the southern apps, let's check this out. This includes Tennessee, North Carolina, and all these states you see right here. So overnight, we're getting into around 6 to 7, 8 a.m. Look at the pink showing up here. This is freezing rain. What happens is a little bit of a CAD sits in here. In situation CAD, this funnels in cold, dry air, high pressure way up here. Not the most favorable condition. Placement is what I meant to say, but it's funneling in some dry air. This will allow for a wet bulb temperature to be met, and in some cases in these higher elevations, maybe Boone down to Asheville, you could get a light glaze of ice tomorrow. Now, one thing that's tricky about these situations is sometimes they like to linger around longer than what models show. So we'll see this, and I certainly think we could see some sleet flying around potentially, and even in the Triad of Piedmont, North Carolina. But let me tell you, even for Charlotte, Greensboro, Hickory, Greenville, Spartanburg, it is going to be a raw day tomorrow. There's going to be a CAD in place. There's going to be a pretty extreme temperature gradient, especially in South Carolina and North Carolina, where southern and eastern parts of these states will be in the 60s, maybe even the 70s. But you get into the Piedmont, North Carolina, upstate of South Carolina, will be locked into the 30s and 40s. And I know you are thinking, well, if you're in the 30s and you got rainfall, why isn't it snow? But it really depends on what the temperatures are in the upper levels of the atmosphere. We will talk a lot more about that here in the coming weeks and months when it's needed. But a glaze of ice, certainly possible, maybe up to 1/10 of an inch of ice at most for certain areas. And here in the mountainous areas of North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia, even areas of far western Maryland, certainly possible. So just be aware of this. This will probably cause some school delays tomorrow for sure. So let's talk about this system and its impacts on the Northeast. As this moves through, we'll start this off tomorrow about midday. You got a burst of snow potentially moving through far northern areas of Virginia, even Maryland, eastern areas of West Virginia. This could be a burst of snow for a lot of the state of Pennsylvania. before the precipitation just kind of moves out. And then, this system will deliver snow on its own for, New York State and maybe even Erie to Buffalo to Watertown. And this really isn't because of lake effect snow. This is just because of this system. But this system kind of ignites the lake effect snow as cold air funnels in behind it. But here's what I'm talking about. You could get a little bit of front end snow flying around in southern New England, states like Mass, Connecticut, Rhode Island, before you start to switch to rain. Maybe a little bit of ice for these areas in western Mass, areas of near Albany, New York. So we'll watch for this, and certainly going to see snow flying around for New Hampshire, Vermont, and then the upstate sections of New York State. And then this could become a bigger system for areas in Maine. But in general, they're not expecting huge totals from this. This is getting into the time of the year where it's pretty hard to get an upgrade to a winter storm warning. So that's why you only got winter weather advisories for now. This could change. Now, you look at the European with this. The European has been a little bit more aggressive with this snowfall event. This moves through, same kind of situation. Throws a little bit of a front end thump of snow potential for Mass before abruptly switching to a cold rain. And then by the time we're getting into Wednesday morning, a lot of heavy snow flying around here. And like I said, those same states, upstate New York State, and then areas of Vermont and New Hampshire. Maybe some snow tries to linger around for a time in these far western counties in Mass, where there's a little bit of some higher elevations there. But in general, all day Wednesday, throughout Wednesday evening, this could become a big event for Maine. Several inches of snow certainly possible. And then look at these lake effect snow bands beginning to fire off here. When you look at the European ensembles in these areas, and this is just for the system, like I said, over maybe a half a foot of snow possible, anywhere from Vermont through northern New Hampshire, through sections of Maine. And I think several inches are possible even in interior areas of New York State. And then there could be an area, maybe a few inches of snow even in far western Maryland, West Virginia, and then, right in the heart of Pennsylvania. Maybe State College sees a couple inches of snow somehow off this. It's certainly possible. But you look at the National Weather Service forecast here, and I like this a good bit better. It's very dependent on elevation, these higher hills in Pennsylvania, and shows it well how a couple inches of snow can fall. And then it likes an area right here in north central New York State to see a pocket of maybe over 6 to 10 inches of snow. And then just about most of all Vermont and New Hampshire, besides far southeast New Hampshire, certainly sees appreciable snow. A nice snowfall event to really kickstart ski season up here. So definitely a thump of snow coming for the interior Northeast, especially as we get into Wednesday. Now, let's talk about this lake effect snow. So you got Lake Erie right here, Buffalo right into here, Watertown right into here. This is Lake Ontario. So as we go through, this is the first system. This has nothing to do with the lake effect snow. This moves through. But watch in this area right here and in this area right here how the totals begin to skyrocket. We'll start it here. This is around Wednesday evening, and then look how these totals begin to rise in this area. We're getting into Friday morning at this point. We'll go all the way through. Let's just take it all the way through. Let's stop it right here, all the way through next Tuesday morning. So about a week out. Look at this area right here, Buffalo. This could hit you guys hard, but just south of Buffalo. Remember, you guys know this all too well if you live in these Great Lakes regions where these lake effect snow regions hit. A few miles make a huge difference. They really do. And certain areas around Buffalo Point South could easily get 2 feet of snow in about a 4 or 5 day window. Watertown, maybe 2 feet of snow. So this is going to be just a snowy week coming up for a lot of folks, guys. It really is. We'll talk more about this here in the next day or so. Well, tomorrow. But this could be a big event as far as lake effect snow. It really could. So talking about temperatures, guys, we'll start this off around Wednesday evening. Temperatures dropping. Potential lows for Thursday morning. Very cold. With cold air filtering back in. I mean, you got 20s. This is the European, a very reliable model. 20s showing up for the entire state of Tennessee, Arkansas, Missouri. Very cold temperatures falling in for the mountains of North Carolina and Virginia. Sub-freezing temperatures for the northern areas of the deep south. And then just a cold day, probably for Thursday, where temperatures will struggle to get above the 40s, even pretty far south. And then some cold air will move through for the weekend. Sub-freezing temperatures dip very south. I finally broke the sub-freezing mark at my house this morning, hit around 30 degrees. So it got several degrees actually colder than what they forecast. So it's always exciting to get the first freeze of the year. But, I mean, look at this. We're getting in the Saturday morning single digits showing up here. You got teens for the Ohio Valley and very cold temperatures moving in. I mean, very chilly across the southeast also. It's going to be just a chilly weekend. And then, for Sunday morning, chilly again. And then this lasts all the way, I would say, through about early next week. Very cold temperatures. And maybe the temperatures begin to moderate for around Thanksgiving. But the reason we're having such a dump of cold air that's firing off the lake effect snow and bringing in such cold temperatures, we've been talking about it a while. What happens here is you get a cross-polar flow. Ridge builds into Alaska. This allows for kind of an unleash of cold air from the Arctic. This is straight from the Arctic. Origins are right from the Arctic. And this funnels in and dives into the U.S., and that's why we have such a cold pattern that's going to continue over the next week. So a very impressive pattern for November standards. It seems like we always get a shot of really cold air in November. So hopefully we can push that into December too, because it seems like over the last several years, we have had an unseasonably warm December for at least the eastern U.S. It seems like it is harder than anything to get a wintry pattern in December, which for me, if we're going to have any month that's going to have wintry weather, for me, it's going to be around the holidays. I've always joked around and said I'd sacrifice the rest of winter, January, February, for a doozy of a winter storm in December, right around Christmas time. I think it would be the most coolest thing ever. Even for a 31-year-old like myself, I would turn into a slap kid again. But, always hoping, always dreaming for that. But certainly a cold pattern setting up for the next week, guys. It's going to continue. But that's all I got, guys. Thank y'all for tuning in. And God bless all y'all, and I'll be with y'all in the morning.